even if they suspected that drugs were in the home or they were being sold, whatever they thought was occurring inside of the home, the fact that their first step was a no-knock warrant and none of them had a criminal record, that just doesn't sit right with me.
Why would you even feel like items in the home is more important than people? Like, is a no-knock warrant a license to kill?
We keep up the good fight every day. We play chess every day. We operate business, not business as usual, but we got a job to do. I'm looking at your shirt right now, Mr. Ralston, Brother Hanif.
Yes.
The story that you're telling me about 1984, before I was born. 3 years before I was, let me get my math right, 84, 85, 86, 87, 3 years before I was born.
I was fighting in the trenches. But I say again with my case, the blessing was, in Judge Joshua Martin III, who I had inspiration to write a letter to and explain to him how I was being treated, the fact that I thought I was being held illegally, that I was being prosecuted illegally because of a double jeopardy violation and also because of an illegal search and seizure. And the judge was gracious enough to concur with my conclusion that the whole thing was illegal. The whole case and prosecution was illegal. So he wrote me back a letter one day. I'm on the block in Smyrna, and I've had to wait about a month and a half for a reply. So when the mail, they call mail call.
Mail call.
I came out and I had a letter from Judge Joshua Martin. I didn't know what it was going to say, but when I opened it up and I read it, it basically said, son, you are right. Double jeopardy attached to your case when you were charged with the double charges, when you had to make bail on the double charges. And he also cited the case, a Michigan case, which was, I'll never forget it, Thurman Lewis Ball case that he used as a reference to denote that my case was in fact illegal and it had already been decided by the Supreme Court of the United States of America. So that was the blessing, that he was courageous enough to agree with me, and I guess in opposition probably to a lot of his co-workers, he stood up and freed the brothers. So that was a blessing. Praise be to God.
So let's go back to the beginning. Praise be to Allah. Brother Hanif, you said that they violated your Fourth Amendment right here, illegal search and seizure.
Right.
They came in this building, which is owned by your family.
Right.
This is y'all, this is where y'all at. This is where you still at.
No,
this is where you operate your business.
Nobody was living there. See, this was the situation. Okay. Now, I was doing illegal things. I'm not proud of it, but it's a fact, so I can tell the truth. Okay, so one day, my father had came, and me and him talked, and he didn't live here. My father lived in Jefferson Farms. We had a fire here. It was a bar and a liquor store, so I was kind of renovating the place, and he had kind of put me in charge of the whole place, and I was just running my illegal activities, to be perfectly honest. Anyway, try to make a long story short. One day I came.
Jefferson Farms, Newcastle. That's Newcastle, right?
Right. That's out in Newcastle.
Suburbs.
Nah, past Southbridge. It's out there off Route 9.
I said suburbs.
Oh, the suburbs. Yes. So anyway, that's where his home was. But he had put me in charge here to do the renovations and all of that. Any day, to make a long story short, one day he came here, and I was living in the back room upstairs. So I look out the window and I see these cars parked way down there on Taylor Street. So with my street intuition, I said, well, that's the police. So when my father came, I took him and I said, that's the police down there. He said to me, son, if you got anything in here, you should get it out of here. I said, don't worry about it, I'm all right. He left and I left. So when I left, I drove around. That car that was parked down the street started following me. I made a left on the Bennett. It made a left on the Bennett. I went down to 7th Street, made another left. It made a left. I came back to Church Street, made a left. It made a left. So when I drove over 11th Street Bridge, they pulled me over. And about 10 cop cars, they pulled me over, take me out of the car. I'm very belligerent because I feel like I've done nothing wrong and I'm not dirty. So anyway, make a long story short, this was a guy named Fitzgerald, who was a he worked for the DEA at that particular time. He grew up in Dunleaf. I grew up in Dunleaf. I knew this guy basically all my life. He's 5, 6, 7 years older than me, something like that.
You talking about the police officer?
Police officer, Fitzgerald. But he wasn't a Wilmington police officer. He was a DEA officer.
Drug enforcement agent.
So anyway, when they pull me out of the car, I get out of the car. He reaches into the car, and he finds what I would categorize as a roach. Now, I don't know if it was under the bottom of my shoe or how I got in there. And anyway, he come out with it and say, "You're under arrest for possession of marijuana."
Because you had a joint.
It wasn't a joint, it was a roach, burnt little piece of weed.
Not even a whole joint.
Right. Okay, so anyway, they take me downtown, lock me up. But I'm noticing that it's taking a long time for these guys to come and tell me what my bail's gonna be. So, you know, it goes on for an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Then this officer, I think it was again, I forgot the officer anyway. He come in there and throw some paperwork in the cell. And he say, we found your stash, something like that. I said, you ain't find my stash. You know. So anyway.
He found what you had here.
They've been in here and found what they had here. But this is the catch even with that. They had a search warrant for the 2nd floor of this building because they thought when you walked in that front door that it was blocked off and you could only go upstairs. They didn't realize when you opened the door, it opened up to this whole area and the bar area at the time. They didn't realize that. So rather than go back and get a search warrant for the entire building, they opted to use the search warrant that they had, and they tried to cover it up by saying, well, we were securing the building and what you had in the bar area was in plain sight, which was a lie because it was in the drawer. So they had to open the drawer to get to it. So they conducted a search, which was an illegal search and seizure. Anyway, I ended up making bail, got out.
So we got 30 more seconds. What outcome came to be? What was it that you were able to learn? How is it that you're able to teach?
Well, the outcome was this. This was the initial outcome. The outcome was they gave me 30 years in the penitentiary, 15 mandatory. That was the outcome. During that time, you could commit murder and you would get out of jail in 11 years for good behavior.
Vigilant law enforcement executed a no-knock warrant on my family's home. In the process of them executing this warrant, shots were fired. Our stepdad was killed, an officer was killed, and my mother was shot. They are now currently trying to charge our 23-year-old brother with first-degree murder due to the officer. So I don't think I've actually had time to process what has actually occurred.
It's like you gotta cry and move as you cry.